But this has to be one of the greatest experiences that they've ever had up to this point in their life. And here we have the mountaintop experience for these three that has now changed the way they view Jesus forever. They never, I can imagine, if we could interview them today, you know, like a lot of times you see on like sports networks or people interview people after a long life or whatever, and we say, what was the turning point for you and how you view Jesus? And they could say the mountaintop. The time that I spent alone with Jesus on that mountaintop was the time that changed me. The Message reads these verses this way, and it's such impactful. Verses 7 and 8 from the Message says, just then a light radiant cloud enveloped them, and deep in the cloud a voice said, this is my son, marked by my love. Listen to him. The next minute the disciples were looking around and rubbing their eyes and seeing nothing but Jesus. Only Jesus. Wow. Do we react that way? I mean, really, we probably more react the way Peter does. Sometimes when we spend that time in Jesus' presence that we don't know what to say. I mean, our first thing is, like Peter said, wow, it's great to be here. We're glad to be here. We're in God's presence, right? But then we shoot off and we say something like, Peter, why would you want to build memorials? Man, that's not the focus here. You know, we don't need to build monuments or anything. Then God's voice and his presence comes down. He said, this is my son who is marked by my love. Listen to him. When the disciples started rubbing their eyes because probably God's glory and Jesus' glory, he's shining so bright they can barely even stand to see it. They realized that their focus and everything is just Jesus now. Everything else has disappeared around them. They probably don't even realize they're still on a mountainside because all they see, the only thing they see is Jesus. Isn't that what God is continuing to try to get us to see? No matter what's going on, no matter what the circumstances that are going on in our lives, he's only wanting us to focus on Jesus. They were standing there, and all they saw was Jesus. Wow. That is amazing. At the mountaintop experience with him, they began only to see him. And not only did they just see him, because sometimes, and a lot of times we see this with kids, right? Their focus is on one thing, and they act like they're listening to you, mom or dad, right? They're on my daughter just got a DS for Christmas, so that's kind of her thing. But then if she doesn't want to listen to us, she just plugs the earphones in already. She's already figured out how to do that. No more spending time with the teenagers for her. But there are times where, you know, I'll be at home and I'm reading, Kim's talking to me and I'm listening. She thinks I'm listening. Or I pretend like I'm listening sometimes, I guess. But to truly listen, our focus has to be over there, right? Or the other times is our focus is there, but then we're not really listening to. But when the disciples, when their vision was totally focused on Christ, and God's voice came down, what we have to realize, God sends a powerful message. This is my son who is marked by my love. So the more experience that we're going to have with Christ, the more alone time that we're going to have with him, we're going to have that love. Because Jesus is marked by love. He can't be nothing but love. So the more time that we spend, just like that mountaintop experience for Peter, James, and John, we realize that Christ is marked by love. And we're going to spend time with somebody who's marked by love. What is that eventually going to do for us? It's going to rub off. And we realize that we're only keeping our eyes and focus on Jesus. That God is marked by love. But there's a psalm, Psalm 77, that I believe shows a reaction to how we react to our experiences with God. Maybe many of you in here, you grew up going to different kinds of churches. Maybe it was a Baptist church or a Methodist church, or maybe some of you were raised Catholic. And I have many friends in all different denominations, whether they be Catholic or Baptist or Methodist. I do have some Nazarene friends. But Psalms, I believe, really describes how a lot of times we feel when we begin to reflect on experience we have with God. Listen to these words. Psalm 77. And imagine yourself. You may react this way. This comes from the Message. I yell out to my God, and I yell with all of my might. I yell at the top of my lungs. He listens. I find myself in trouble and went looking for my Lord. See, my life is an open wound that wouldn't heal. And when friends said everything will turn out all right, I didn't believe a word they said. I remember God. Yeah. And shake my head. I bow my head and then I wring my hands. I'm awake all night, not a wink of sleep. I can't even say what's bothering me. I go over the days one by one. I ponder the years gone by. I strum my lute all through the night, wondering how to get my life together. Will the Lord walk off and leave us for good? Will he never smile again? Is his love worn threadbare? Has his salvation promise burned out? And has God forgotten his manners? Has he angrily stalked off and left us? Just my luck, I said. The high God goes out of business just in the moment I need it. Wow. That's how the world wants us to react. We begin to remember those experiences with God. They're like, remember when you were a little kid? God wasn't there for you. Satan begins to whisper those things through the world and through your other friends around you, maybe people who would call themselves your friends. But then the psalm just picks up. And then this is the true reaction that God is longing for us as we remember our experiences. Once again, I go over what God has done. And I lay out the table of the ancient wonders. And I'll ponder all the things you've accomplished. And I give a long, loving look at your acts. Oh God, your way is holy. No God is great like God. You're the God that makes things happen. You showed everyone what you can do. You pulled your people out of the worst kind of trouble. Rescued the children of Jacob and Joseph. Ocean saw you in action, God. Saw you trembled with fear. Deep ocean was scared to death, and clouds belched buckets of rain. Sky exploded with thunder, and your arrows flashing this way and that. From whirlwind came your thundering voice. Lightning exploded the world, and the earth reeled and rocked. You strolled right through the ocean, walked straight through the angry ocean. But nobody saw you coming over. Hidden in the hands of Moses and Aaron, you led your people like a flock of sheep. Wow.